Hello, Billy the Artist here, back with another how to draw lesson, and today we are going to be doing Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson in the Marvel Avengers films, and this will be the third of the Marvel drawings that we have done. But before we go any further, please do like and subscribe, tick the bell to be notified when new lessons are available. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/theartofbilly. That is a monthly subscription, though you do get all the lessons advert free, and I will be adding my back catalogue over time to my Patreon account. You can also support me if you want to buy something called Buy Me a Coffee. You go to buymeacoffee.com/theartofbilly and you can tip me just by buying me a coffee. Really appreciate it. That's really good because it helps to keep the channel going and me doing the work, because these lessons I do around my main work. I just do these for fun because it's a joy to actually encourage you people how to draw. It's absolutely fantastic, and I do put the slideshows up of people who have used my drawing lessons to help them with their work. Now again, we have done how to draw Spider-Man, Tom Holland, there is how to draw Tony Stark, Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr. That's in the Marvel playlist. I will be doing more Marvel characters, and then there's others. I've obviously got the Harry Potter playlist. There are just the dedicated portraits playlist, and then there's the how to draw playlist as well. Now again, there's a link in the cards and description box to a lot of the videos, and that's just great. You know, there's lots there for you to have a go at. And again, please do tag me with #drawingwithbilly. Tag me on Instagram at Billy_artist, and I can put your work in a slideshow. It's an absolute joy. Anyway, these are great and good fun with all the other portraits. Oh, I say there's Ariana Grande. People have really been enjoying doing that one. There's the BTS guys, Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, and many, many, many more. But here we have, for the drawing today, we have the A4 piece of paper. Now again, people keep on asking in the comments, what are the dimensions? And I always put them in the introduction. It's kind of interesting that people just don't pick up the fact that they're in the introduction. But anyway, this is an A4 piece of paper, which is 21 centimeters by 29.7. That's 210 by 297 millimeters, and the squares are 2 centimeter, 20 millimeter intervals. And I do A to J, 1 to 14 down the side, and then we kind of play battleships, and I put squares down. Now I draw these lines on so that you can see them. This is just drawing with a 2B pencil. If you draw the lines on, draw them very light. If you check out the Using Grids is Not Cheating video, it shows you actually how to lay these down and other things in my drawing lessons, and I draw them very, very lightly on a piece of paper, so you just can't see the grid lines. If you draw them on lightly, it's easier to erase. Somebody left a comment saying, you know, it's very difficult to rub out. It's like, don't draw the lines as dark as I do. I do this so that you can actually see the lines while I'm drawing. So again, that's just part and parcel of the underdrawing process. Now again, people use the grid method. They are worldwide artists using this. And if you don't see people actually putting the drawing down, there are people who can do portraits completely freehand. I've drawn freehand at events. It's absolutely fine. It's a skill. It just takes time to develop. But if you don't see anybody laying the drawing down, they are tracing using a projector, a light box, anything. They are doing something to get that line down. It's fine. It's just a technique. That's art. I'm here to demystify drawing. I'm going to tell you the basic techniques that took me years to discover. Again, this is BC, before computers and before cyberspace and the internet. That's how long ago I started drawing. I've been drawing now for over 40 years, and it's a joy to encourage you. Now again, even on this grid, I will start by using shapes, and you can use shapes, freehand drawing, to build up. Again, check out the cards in the description, How to Draw Anything Part 1. That's helped loads of people with the absolute basics of freehand drawing, not using a grid. But for something as complex as this, using a grid is a great way to do the drawing. So now we are coming in with the trusty 2B pencil, and we'll probably be using 4B, 8B and other bits and bobs as we go along, but we're going to come in and we're going to start by putting shapes down. Now I'm going to start from the E1 line, and we've got a box here going to the F, and we come over between the D and the E, and that's the top of Black Widow's head. Now we want her neck, which is a V shape, and that comes down from the 3, comes through the E to the center here, and then we've got another V shape, another triangle, which is this collar that comes out, and that just comes down through the 4 line. There is a rectangle that comes over between the E and the F, and then behind that we have got this other triangle for the right hand collar, and then I'm going to put a little rectangle through the 2 line, which is the nose, a little box for the left eye and the right eye, kind of like a pair of glasses, and then just a little line for where the top of the hair is. Now again, we've put that box, but we can actually put a bit of a circle in. There's a little rectangle for the right ear, and then a little oval shape for the left ear that's just inside the F line. Again, you've got this shadow of the shape of the neck, muscles and tendons down the front of the throat, another little V shape that we can just put in there. Now we've got the left arm, and this comes down from the G, and this comes all the way to the 8 on the H below. So that's the kind of inside of the left arm. Top of the shoulder comes out through the G between 3 and 4. Then we've got kind of a little triangle that's going to be the shoulder pad. Again, there's lots of wiggly detail in the shoulder pad, but if we come down to the 7 on the H, here we've got, you can see another little diagonal shape. Then we've got another triangle on the top, which is those, that comes right through the H, kind of vertical lines on her wristband. That's the kind of left cuff. Then we can bring, there's the elbow and the upper part of the arm. And again, another little box that comes down through the 9, and this is the left hand. Then we've got the fingers, just little rectangles that go across the H line, and then the little finger kind of right on the 7 and the H. No, sorry, not 7, the 9 and the H. Then we've got the first finger, and then we've got the thumb that comes down. Now here we've got her baton in her left hand, so we've got a little square there, and this comes all the way down to the J13. So you can see here, this is where the tip is, and 11I, so this is a bit like kind of doing a dot to dot. That's the long batten outer shape. But then we've got these little rectangles all the way up that give all of the patterning. And so we've got the rectangles all the way down, then underneath the 12 we've got another little one, and then through the 13, and then the tip goes right across the J. So that's that left hand side all the way down. So now we're going to come and do the centre of a body, but we're going to do, again, just using shapes, it helps using the grid line. So if we come to the 8 and come over to the E, we've got Black Widow's belt. So we've got a little rectangle, there's a square right next to the E, and then we've got a little triangle next to it, a triangle on the either side, some little curved shapes, but that's going to curve up like a kind of curved rectangle, but we've got the holster strap that comes over. Through the 8 line, got the top, so again that's just a little rectangle, then we've got this rectangle that comes down for the holster strap over a left thigh, and then we've got the actual holster itself, that's just a rectangle that comes down through the G line right the way down to below the 10. So you've just got one long box at the bottom, long rectangle, and then a smaller one at the top, and that's got the detail of the gun in. And then we've got another slightly curved rectangle that's the strap coming around off the holster to a upper left thigh. Now if we bring the curved rectangle from the belt coming out towards the G, just curves, and you can see that comes down underneath, and that's a belt just on the inside. The leg's then going to curve down inside the holster. Now there is a little line on the leg, that's the fabric joining, but then we come up and we've got the upper body. So we've got the shape of the hips, you can see how they come up, but we've got this rectangle, just a slight curved rectangle, and we're using the shape and pattern of the clothes to help. We've got the zip that comes, just curves, comes all the way down through the centre of the 7 line, and then we've got here a V. You can see we've got a V shape as that goes off. Again, we've got this curve line that comes down, and we go up to, oh, we've got another little rectangle on the shoulder there, there's another one there, and then we can see that splits into the 2. From this corner point on the G5, we've got a rectangle kind of strap that goes up to the shoulder pad, and then we've just got the curve inside the G line of the upper part of a body around the breast, at the top part of a chest down the side, and that curves down, and then we get the side coming down there. Now again, there's a rectangle here got a bit of a parallelogram. You've got this like little V shape. So if you see there, you've got a diamond. It's just got this kind of little diamond shape. We're going to come down, and then we've got a V that comes down through the 7 line. And then off the bottom, just below the F7, we've got a little rectangle at the bottom. Now this is incredibly complex, really, this actual pattern on the clothes. You've got the one coming off on the right hand side that comes down through the E7. But if you just break it down like this into little shapes using the grid, it becomes very, very simple. So again, we've now got, coming up to the 5 to the just to the right of the D line, we've got a C shape here. Just a nice simple C shape that comes down to a V that comes up to the E line. And you can see there's a V. And that's the shape of her right breast that's providing this shape here, that we can then bring the curve down. And then we've got a V at the bottom that comes down to the 7 line. And that goes up, and then we can just curve that up to join. That's how we just use the simple shapes. Now again, we've got these straps like here that are coming up to the shoulder. They're just little rectangles. Again, we can bring the curved line over. This one goes right up underneath the collar. Then we've got the top of the collar, we've got a little one that comes down just to the left of the D line by the 4, little rectangle. And then we've got a curve on that like kind of triangle shape. You can see a triangle there, but it's just curved at the top, and then the bottom part of the shoulder strap, and then coming through the 5 line, going to the D, we've got that little rectangle for the strap at the top. Then we come down with the right arm all the way down, and you can see where that joins the 8 on the C. And then we can just curve. You can see where the kind of creases are. Just put, because an arm isn't perfectly straight, so I've just put a little rectangle there and a kind of little rectangle there, and that's the arm. But then we've got this pattern on the right arm, got a little triangle there for the cuff. Then you've actually got the horizontal stripes on the top part of a cuff. Rectangle at the bottom, little triangle on the top, a little rectangle goes round the left hand. Again, inside to the right of the C, we've got below the 8, we've got the holster, like on this side. So we just come down, that's a rectangle for the main part of the holster, and then the gun sticking out of the top. And we can see here we've got a little triangle, and then the curve of the hip comes up. So now, coming off the holster below the 9, between the 9 and the 10, well, if we just come down, we got here coming through the 11D. This is the right leg. It comes down, little box, just a curved box for the knee pad. Then we've got the right leg that comes up, and we've got the strap just a curved rectangle for the strap from the holster on a right thigh. And then the fabric change, again you can see there coming off the E line, you've got this big triangle shape there. And that's how you can just build up the shapes. Now again, you've got the curve going up to the right hip, and then all between the left hip and the crotch you've got deep shadow, but you know that there's going to be a little V there for that centre part. Now as we come down, we have a V here off the F line. We have a little rectangle for the left kneecap, then we've got rectangle coming down, just curve it a little bit for the right ankle, and then there's a V shape for the left ankle going behind the right leg. Again, there's a lot of shapes on these knee pads, but you can see here very simply, there's a V, and that's that little kind of badge shape. Then you've got a rectangle over the top, rectangle underneath. Here we've got a kind of D shape, so that'll help us, but we can build up those detail lines in a little bit. Now we've got to do the right hand. So again, here we come down, we've got a little rectangle at the top of the glove to the cuff, rectangle coming down through the 9 line between the B and the C. That's the kind of palm. Then you've got the thumb, little rectangle there that comes down. And then inside we've got, kind of in the centre, we've got a little rectangle for the first finger, then we've got a longer one for the second finger, third finger, and the fourth finger needs to come up a bit. And then we've got the end of the handle, and then you can see how, again, the same thing, we can just follow the line down. We need to come to the 13 line on the inside of the A, and then that's going to come up here through the 12 line and then up to the 11, and we just do a dot to dot, and then we can draw the long batten down. Then we've got a little rectangle at the bottom with the point at the end, kind of domed point, the domed end, rectangle there, and then another rectangle here for these kind of detail changes on a batten, and then one by the thumb. So again, on these bits in between there's a little kind of oval shape, so I'm just indicating those quickly. Little oval, then come back up, and then just rectangle for her mouth, just curve it a little bit, just indicate where the eyes are going to be. And then we've got kind of a rectangle for a plait. Here we've got this little C shape, and then again just a curve, so you can see just a curve coming round, and then a triangle, and that's the plait at the back. You can take the neckline up, and then just put some diagonal lines on where the shape of a head is. But that's a simple way of getting a box outline, and then we're going to detail this up next. Right, just sharpened the trusty 2B pencil. Now I need a piece of paper so that I don't smudge this a lot now, and we're going to come in and we're going to detail up the head of Black Widow, of Scarlett Johansson. So again, we've put in these simple shapes at first, Now we need to actually detail up the outline. So we're going to do the head and then we'll do the rest of the body. Now, I'm going to start right at the top. So we've got these boxes that we've put in. We're going to start on the one line just to the right of the E. And you can see we've got this nice curve that comes out and down. And it's just curves out and around and comes down to the 2 line and just comes down underneath a little bit. And you can see we've got a hair is pulled back to a ponytails. And then we've got the top of a forehead. So, in fact, straight away, let's just... You can see we've got a 45-degree line that comes down here. And that's the kind of line that we need to follow. Bring that curve down. And we've got the hair that's going to come out from the front of a head all the way around a forehead. That's going to curve down. Now here we've got the curved shape of the hair at the front of a forehead. That comes down, but you've got a little curve here of the hair as it pulls down. And then we've got the side of a forehead coming down to the top of a right cheek. And that comes through the 2 line, and then this comes down. This is inside the halfway point. So we've got kind of halfway between the D and the E. And as we come down, we can see that the chin then curves, the jaw curves across to the front of the chin above the 3 line. And the head is just slightly tilted. It's not vertical, it's just slightly tilted on an axis. So we can curve that up. Jaw comes around. Again, we can see on this side, just inside the F, we've got the top part of a cheek. So this is going to come down. Again, I'm drawing these lines very, very dark so that you can see them. And we just got this nice curve that comes down to this halfway point. And above we've just got a little curve going up to then the forehead. The hair curves over and comes this little kind of V point right at the top of a head. And then we've got the curve that comes over from the hair pulled back, and it kicks out a little bit, curves over and comes through the F line by the 2. And just imagine like a D there, little D shape. That curves around, then hair curves again, just comes through on about the halfway line above her ear. So now about a third of the way, we've got the hair that comes over her ear. Then we've got a little dark triangle, and then we've got another triangle which is part of her ear there. Got the bottom of her earlobe that curves around, comes up, and again this outer part of the ear, just think of it as just a nice simple little oval. Line of the ear, and then the entrance to the ear canal where it's quite dark. Then we've got the neck comes down below the 3 line. We've got this V shape of the collar that comes out. I'm only going to go as far as the collar. I mean, because we're just focusing on the head, and this is what will give us the reference points to actually build everything in. The collar comes down, curves through the F line above the 4, and then we've got this shape, this slightly curved rectangle that comes across, and then the same for the lower one, and that's the kind of connecting strap that's holding the shoulder pads on. And you've got a little rectangle for that little metal connector, and underneath we've got a little triangular fold of that material that then comes down, and this is the top of the zip. The top of the zip is just to the kind of right of the center line between the E and the F. And then we've got the same on this side. So we've got the curve going up, then we want the collar going up just below the kind of halfway line, and this gives us the shape of the bottom part of a neck going up to about 3/4, and then you've got the curve of the collar that comes out. And you can see I've not done this side because I don't follow an exact formula. You just draw and figure things out as you go, just by keep looking at the reference and then putting your drawing lines down. So there's that top part of the collar. This curves down. Then you've got the neck going up to the cheek. Again, we've got the shape of that shadow caused by a chin coming down. Now we just put the collar in on this side. It just curves up a little bit, and we want the edging inside the collar. Now her right ear, again we've got the shape, and the bottom point of her ear is kind of on the centre. So we've got this little V higher than this one. We can just it's not a smooth C, so you've got this curve, rather than being a curve all the way around, you've got a little curve halfway up and then it kicks out again. Then you've got the top of the ear and the inside. Again, this is just the angle looking up. Now you could use a technical pencil for this line, but I'm just using a normal pencil, as I always tend to do, just to show you what you can do with simple equipment. So now we've got Black Widow's nose. Again, if you just think of a kind of curved triangle shape, that's what curves around there. And it's just to the right of the E line. And then you've got a kind of little M shape, which is the 2 nostrils and the centre part, and the curve goes underneath. And then there's the dark of the nostrils, and the left nostril is a little bit longer than the right nostril. We've got the curve of the nose going up to the eyebrows. Now we've got the eyebrow shape that comes up diagonally through the E line, and then it's going to cut across. But we want to get the eyes in. So right on the E line, we've got this lower eye. Now again, this is a really small portrait, so it's not like when you do a full portrait you've got a lot of space to work with, so you're going for an impression because we don't have the space. So curving the eye around, and you just want to curve going back over the top, and the point goes through the E line. And then you've got that dark line above, which is the fold in her upper eyelid. But you've got the really nice dark eyebrows. Eyelashes, sorry, not eyebrows. Coming right out. Then little circle for her eye. Now again, there's little highlights. I'm going to try and leave that. And then the same for her left eye, but this is closer to the 2 line. So we've got the eyeshadow underneath. You can see our actual pupil and iris is pretty close to the centre, so I'm just doing a little circle there. Got this diagonal line where the eyes are, and then we want the upper eyelash coming out towards the side of the head, but you've got that black mascara, and you've got the curve over the top. And then again, I'm just going to darken right eyebrow, that curves down, and then the thicker part of her eyebrow curves up and then just comes down. Follow the curve a little bit of the upper part of the eye socket, and that's getting the eyes in. And then we've got the mouth, so we've got this little rectangle between the lower part of the nose and the upper part of the lips. Little U shape. Curve the mouth down, comes just through the E line. And you can see like it comes over, curve above where the lower parts of her ears are. And we need to curve the lower lip, and then the centre of the mouth, and then the lower part of the chin. Again, that's just a very simple way of getting the outline down. Now again, I'm just indicating here where you've got that strong highlight down the side and down the right side. And then coming off the back of her neck, we've got her plaits. So we can see we've got one that comes down over the top of the neck, comes off the right hand side of her neck over the top of her right shoulder. And then these, you've just got these little squares, it's like a herringbone. Little triangle shapes. And that's how you build those in. And then again, off the side of a neck, the other plait that curves across. It's actually inside the D line. So you can see how that curves down, comes across the other plait. And then again, we want just nice, simple curves. It's like a herringbone pattern. Little triangle shapes. Just to indicate the plait going down. Again, the plait comes off on the side, but we'll do the rest of that with the rest of the body. But that's very quickly and carefully getting just a simple outline down that we can then detail up of Black Widow's face. So now we need to get the rest of the outline down on all of Black Widow's costume. So we're going to start and we're going to bring down, we're going to zip. We've just got this curve that we need to follow down. Again, I'm just using the trusty 2B pencil for now. Again, this is rather complex, so you could use a technical pencil. I'm just spinning the pencil just to keep it as sharp as possible. So again, that's 2 lines either side for the kind of side of the zip, and I'm just indicating the actual zip marks. Then we've got this curve that comes over these upper vertical straps that go down into a left armpit. Got the curve that comes around the left breast, then comes down the body to her belt. Now we've got this shape that we're just following, comes down. In fact, that just comes quite close to the F line. I can bring that down, that curve, long line, and then we've got this V down underneath. And above it we've got another V. The side of the body, and we've got this V up the side just underneath the left breast. Then we need the shape that comes down to the left of the zip. That goes up and then comes across a little bit higher than the construction line. Now, got this curve from underneath the collar. it comes down. Then we've got this shape here from the top of the shoulder, the neckline going towards the shoulder. Then we've got the actual outer part of the shoulder pad. And that comes about a third here. So we just want to follow the curve out. That comes down. And then we've got the underneath plate. It's kind of reminiscent of Roman and samurai kind of armour. And then this comes down, curves over, curves around the arm just above the 5 line, and that goes up. And then we've got those kind of white lines. That dark goes right the way down. Then we've got the strap on right arm. Now we've got the outer part of the right arm. We've got this little triangle here between the 6 and the H line. So we just need to get that curve and shape of the upper arm. Then a slither of a V that comes down, and the wrist curves over. Just sharpening my pencil. And then this comes down, curves across through the 7. We've got this diagonal of the wrist, the part of the cuff, then the arm. We can see we've got this triangle here. How this comes up in the dark, in the shadow. And again, we put the actual shape in, but it was a bit thin. So here we've got the upper part of the arm. We've got these creases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How they come down. And that's the arm that comes down to the wristband. And then we've got the gold vertical bars with the curve at the top that follows the form of the cuff. And then we've got the vertical lines. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one at the end, 7. And again, you can just kind of indicate them just to make them look. Then you've got the bottom of the cuff underneath coming down to where the hand is. And then the top of the baton inside a hand. Then you've got fingers. So a little finger right on the cross point. There's the third finger. Fingernail, second finger, then the first finger. Then you've got the thumb sticking out of the glove. You've got the back part of the glove. Got the highlight coming down. And there you've got Black Widow's left arm. So again, I'm just going for an impression. You can spend a long time actually drawing massive amounts of detail on this. This is really complex. Again, a bit like Spider-Man, there was a lot on his suit. So I've just put those rectangles in. they're going to be black. Now we've got these kind of oval shapes, but they've got lines across as well, so drawn a little more of a little kind of egg oval shape, and you put the horizontal lines through them. And that's the left button done. Now come back up. We need to do the same on Scarlett's, Black Widow's right shoulder and side. So you've got the 3 parts that are coming down. Bit of a shadow. And you've got a bit going up underneath the right shoulder guard. You've got the curve that comes out, and the strap that comes underneath. Then we've got the tails of the pigtails, and that's those pigtails done. And we've got this pattern that comes across. You've got the whiter highlight, so we're following the curve down. Coming down to these little rectangles at the bottom. Same on this side, just indicating the pattern. Then we've got the V's on the right hand side at the bottom. And this V below her right breast that comes up on the side, curves underneath. So again, now we've got the right arm. Unlike this side, we did get the construction lines in much better. Again, we've got the centre part of her arm that goes up. Then we've got the upper arm that comes down, curves just inside the 6C, and then the forearm just starts to curve out a little bit more. We've got that pattern created by the fabric, that line that goes up. To sharpen the pencil. And then we can bring the inside of the forearm down, the cuff. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts on the upper part of the cuff. Top part of a glove. That curves down, coming down to the thumb. Then we've got the first finger, second finger, fingernail, third finger, and the little finger, and the top of the baton inside. So now again, just indicating the darker parts of the baton as it comes down, and then we've got this kind of little oval, couple of lines in between, lines connecting the baton. Now come up to the belt. This is on the E8 line. Got a curve in that rectangle. Then the same shape inside. Little rectangles either side. Then you've got this V shape. On the outside you've got the V vertical, and that's all that metal gold colour. Strap coming over to the holster. Then here we've got, imagine just a little square, and then you cut the corner off, and that's that shape on that part. That's the belt going up to a hip. Little rectangle, something pouch at the back curving over. So same on this side, a little goldy metal coloured rectangle, thin one there, pouch out to the side. Then we can just bring the curve of the strap down, comes through the F8 line and curves over towards the holster. Then we've got the hip that curves down. We've got a strap from the holster that curves around. And we've got the actual holster with the gun. So again, just nice simple shapes. We can just build the outline up. Got the highlight in the centre. Then you've got the gun at the top, which is just a rectangle, some lines in and a curve around, which is the handle, obviously going down the back of the gun. You've got the fabric on the leg, the outer part of the upper left thigh, you've got the shadow and this highlight that comes down. Underneath the 12 line we've got the knee pad that curves over, comes down, comes under the, just on the 13 line. The pattern in the centre, you got the curve of the left ankle with the highlight on the side. And we come back up. Got the upper part of the right thigh that curves right the way up to this joint of the material. We've got this little triangle shape which connects to the holster, and you've got the upper strap of the holster on a right thigh, indicate the patterning either side. Little curve around that, curve of the leg coming down around the knee pad, and that's got the V there at the front of the knee pad, curved rectangle coming over, just a nice kind of simple curve shape. And that curves down right underneath edge of the ankle, curve of the outer part of the calf of the lower part of a right leg. Then we've got the gun. On this side you've got the top part, just a rectangle with a line through it. Again, same with the holster. Comes down. Got a funny little wiggly shape at the bottom, little shape on the side, And that's our simple outline now down after putting the basic shapes down. Anyway, that's really good. We now need to erase the construction lines behind, and then we can start actually detailing in Black Widow. So I'm using, this is my Mars plastic, just a rubber I've used, an eraser I've used for years and years and years. I just like it. You find what works for you. And again, I use a Daler-Rowney putty rubber. I've tried a Faber-Castell, that's okay for some things, but it's very, very soft. And I quite like the pliability of the Daler-Rowney one. It just works for me. Again, the pencils that I use mainly are Faber-Castell Series 9000. And it's just, I just enjoy using them. It's, you know, people say, oh, it's the feel, you know, you get used to how things work. But it's a pencil, you know. I've done drawings with Stettler and Derwent and other pencils, but you just get used to using certain materials and you trust them to be consistent, and that's a really good thing. So again, this is quite tough. I'm using my hand on the paper to stop the sheet from buckling. There's a lot of space to remove, and just being very, very careful. So that's the bulk of the lines from the outside removed. Now I've got the same, this is a Mars plastic but in a kind of pen, and you just got a little bit more control, and you're able to remove the construction lines very, very simply. Again, comic book artists, like normal comic illustrators, like Stan Lee back in the day and all the many others who've drawn all the characters, they just draw them freehand, but they're drawing characters, not trying to do a full portrait. And this is where using the grid method can help you to learn the basics. If you go and check out my How to Draw Toy Story, you see me drawing the characters, which is the same. So there's Jessie, or there's Woody and some of the others. And the same with the Incredibles, Mr. and Mrs. Incredible and the kids and Frozone. And you see me doing like these superhero drawings freehand, just using basic shapes. There's no grid, like this. So it just, this shows you really good solid portrait techniques. Now I've erased all of them. I'm now just sweeping off all of this spent eraser, and I'm sweeping it onto, this is just an old brush, an old 2-inch brush, just soft, so I can actually sweep it off, but I'm catching it on a piece of paper. I didn't used to do that, so I used to sweep it on the floor, which is really thick. It's just kind of how it is. Anyway, so that's pulled a lot out. Now this is a Derwent battery powered eraser that's actually very dirty. Let's try that again. How bizarre. Oh, that's a bit better. How weird, that was just actually smudging. But this allows me to get really close and remove the grid lines that are in a face and in the costume just with a touch, because it's spinning in between the hair. Again, you don't have to do this as much, but if you draw the lines on lighter, they're easier to remove. That's looking pretty good. Now again, I have got, he says, hopefully, yay! So this is a Tombow mono eraser. Which again, it's just a manual eraser. It's got a fine point. It just allows you a little bit more control. So again, I can get really close to the detailed parts that I just want to remove those construction lines. Again, this is just showing you different techniques, different equipment, and what you can actually do. So just sweep that off. I've got up the edge and across the bottom, just to remove and we can now actually start thinking about shading that in. But that's looking really good so far, and we can start actually shading. But you know, I'm really pleased with that outline already. I hope you are. I hope you're having fun, and we'll carry on and we'll actually shade Black Widow in. So just sharpening the trusty 2B pencil, and we're going to start by shading in and detailing up Black Widow's face. So we need to just put the tone in quite lightly, but we've got obviously strong highlights down both sides, and we've got lots of reflected lights as well. But what I'm going to do is just very carefully and very lightly, using the side and the tip of the pencil, is just bring about the shadows around a face. So if you think of the curve of the face, you can see here we've got this dark shadow all the way down the side of her left cheek, comes down underneath her chin, and you got this like glorious red light on her right cheek. And then just gently following the shape and form of a face around the shadow. So down the side of a nose, and even over the front of a forehead, side of a nose, down the cheek, underneath the right eye, the upper eye socket, and if you just think of it as you're building up the tone to create shapes, that really helps. Now again, there's not a massive amount that we can do because this is a full body drawing. Again, down the side of the neck, underneath the chin. So you're going for an impression, and it's your tone that will actually build up the detail. So again, there I've got a construction line in that shadow, but it doesn't matter. You know, I should have erased it earlier, but that's okay. Tone up the side of the neck. And then down the top of a chest underneath the strap. There's a dark shadow underneath there. Again, same on the ears. We've got such little space, we can only go for an impression. So I'm just putting a bit of shade inside the ear. And obviously we've got shadow underneath the nose. Then using the tip of the pencil very carefully, indicating the shadow, the upper lip, and just drawing the lines the way that the lip would be, and drawing lines on the lower lip. Then we got a shadow shape underneath the lower lip, framing the chin. Again, you just got this kind of oval shape here. Again, I'm just using the side of the pencil very, very gently. Again, that line's actually quite dark. And the more pencil I put on, the darker that's going to get. So I'm just pulling off that pencil, a little bit on that line underneath as well. Now, again, we're coming to late spring, early summer in the UK, so if you can hear birds tweeting, it's because they're all nesting, and which is lovely, and that's really nice because I've got to have the window open. So you may hear lawnmowers going off and chainsaws and all kinds of stuff, as happened last year. So anyway, that's just part and parcel of having to record when it's hot and the window needs to be open. But you may not be able to hear much, so that's fine. So anyway, we're doing the darker parts of Black Widow's hair. But again, even on something as small as this, I'm using the tip of the pencil and I am drawing in the direction that the hair is brushed, leaving the highlight. Again, so from the centre parting, just drawing the hair up and then curving over to the right, just twisting the pencil to keep the sharper point for the shadows underneath the hair where it joins the head, and then right on the side of the head and the cheek, the hair coming up the side of the forehead. So we have the hair looking quite good, just nice and simple. This is going to be relatively easy, as I say, because it's so small. You know, we're talking only a few centimeters square as opposed to the full sheet. So if you want to do absolutely fantastic detail at this size, then you do need to use technical pencils and spend a lot of time, which again, I'm giving you the basic techniques and I want you to just enjoy. So here we've got darker lines where it comes under, down the side of a head over an ear. Then coming out to the highlights. So now I'm going to fill in, again just drawing the hair in the same way that it's brushed, filling up all of the red light, as you can see in the actual reference photo. Now again, I've drawn that solid line, but you want just some wispy hair, because hair's more natural, just coming off. Got the dark around the back of the left ear to that highlight. And the dark right in the ear. Now we've got this dark on a cheek, coming down, and it brings the dark underneath the chin. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with this blending stump. I'm just going to put it in the holder just to give me, no, it's not that short yet. So coming in with this blending stump, and we've got the dark around the forehead. It's that small that I'm not using the kitchen towel. You can, you know, you can smudge and smooth it, but it's really small and tight. So I'm just coming in straight away with the blending stump, coming over the top of the forehead, around the hairline, down the side of her head, just bringing that slight shade over the top and between the nose, down the side of her right hand side of her nose. Then we've got this dark down the side of her cheek. Just soften it up. Again, going up to the nose, filling in underneath the eye. Side of her mouth, you've got this little highlight above the crease of her mouth. Then you've got that oval shape around the chin, and coming up. If you weren't using this, you could use a cotton bud, or you could actually use a piece of tissue like this. Just really compress it to a point. I'll just show you. And I'm doing the same on the left hand side of her face. So there's just different ways you can do it, but I really like these blending stumps. They work very, very well. So again, we've got this darker shadow down the left hand side of her cheek, coming to the chin. Little curve around the mouth. That goes up the side. Of her head. Then the left hand side of her left eye. Underneath the lower part of her left eye. Left hand side of her nose. Then right underneath that little M underneath the nose. Centre part of the mouth. And then we've got underneath her chin, down her neck. Just nice and dark. You've got that V that's coming down. Side of her neck, coming down to the collar, and coming down above the zip. So just cleaning the end of the blending stump. Just smudging up the right hand side of her neck. That goes up. Again, these are kind of mid-tones. And when we actually put the darker on, it'll really help accentuate everything. Again, we're limited because of the size. Again, I'm just blending a little bit in her hair, and you can see already that's just given us just really nice tone. Now, because I'm picking up more and more pencil, you use the blending stump as a pencil itself. Again, I'm just being careful to leave that white highlight down the side. You can see we're just building up that tone on the left hand side of her cheek. And coming down to the end of her chin. Now, come back in with the 2B pencil and increasing the left nostril and then the right nostril, a little dark underneath the curve, side of the nose. Then you can just slightly increase the dark on the edge of the nostril side, and then in between the two nostrils. And the dark up the side, you see we've just got that nice little curve shadow that goes up to the eyebrow, just darkening the eyebrow over. Now I'm just really dark. She has got a highlight in the eyes. I'm just pulling out that with the putty rubber a little bit. She's got really light iris. This is so small. Again, just tried to lighten that a little bit using the putty rubber. And the highlight on the lower eyelid and right in the corner on the tear duct. Same on the right eye. So just increasing the mascara. Just going to sharpen the pencil just so as I've got a really fine point. Just that darker line for underneath the lower part of the lower eyelashes. Then we can darken the side for upper eyelid. And the upper part of the left eye. Now do the same for the right eye. Got a lot of dark on the eyelash coming over to the tear duct. We need to darken the eyeball down. But then the lower eyelash coming out. We need the corner of an eyebrow coming down. And then fill the shape of her eyebrow up. Again, just darkening. This is all with just a 2B pencil. Now again, you could use a 4B or even an 8B, because that will give you a much darker tone, but it's a softer pencil and this is really small. So that's the lips, the dark in the centre of the lips and the nostril. So back to the 2B. just building the dark up right next to the head, in the hair, just gives it that little bit more three-dimensionality. Then coming over the top of the forehead, see where it's darker as it comes to the top of the forehead and the hair starts to come out. And that gives us the shape of the top of the head quite nicely. Again, coming down the side, just increasing that dark a little bit. Just keep looking at the reference. Just dabbing little lines on as we need them. A little bit of shade on the bottom of the ear. Now, we've got this really dark shadow coming down underneath a jawline and the front of a chin. So I'm just carefully filling it in little by little, just using the tip of the pencil but not pressing on too hard, so as I'm getting a nice soft tone, not a sharp line like we did with the hair. So we just bring a little bit more of that tone down. You've got this V shape. Just filling more of the tone in. And that's looking good, and we just got to build up some more tones. We need to build up the tone on a chin. The dark shadow right at the bottom. And that works, and you've still got this reflected highlight underneath on the very edge of a chin. Just build up this tone up the side as well. Side of a neck, and you've got this little V point down here. So I'm just going to come in with the putty rubber. We've got kind of in between your collarbones as they come over in the centre of your neck. Then a lovely V point going up. Then underneath the strap, just above the zip, a little bit of highlight. And the same on the edge of the neck. Now, nearly dropped my pencil. Just coming back in with the blending stump. Just cleaning the tip off. I'm just pushing this pencil around, just softening it off. Just bringing these tones together. On the bottom part of the neck, down the left hand side. And coming up onto the face, the bottom of the chin. Up the side of the cheek. This part, again, it's just like a D shape there. Just adding a little bit more tone. Again, you've got a C shape on this side coming up to the cheek. Just bringing some tone down the right side of the cheek to the jawline. And up the side of the head. Again, right up to the hairline. Just bringing some more tone under the left eye. And the left cheek going up to the nose. And you can see you've just got a little dark patch coming off the sides of the nose. Because with this light coming straight down on top, you're getting shadows either side. That's looking rather good. So now back in with the 2B pencil. Just filling a little bit of tone in on the lips. And then very lightly using the tip. You can see I'm just increasing the intensity of the shadow next to that highlight, but not with a crisp line. And coming down to the side. Of the cheek. This is just carefully building the tones up, nice and gently. Again, same on the right cheek. We've got this diagonal curve with just a little bit more tone, just to give three-dimensionality to the face. And then you've got a V here going up into the eye socket and then up to join the hair. Just inside the corner of the eye socket. We've got a little mole on the cheek, two little moles. And then we've got the same here. We've got a little shadow in this red highlighted side. Just gives three-dimensionality to the face. Then here, down the side of the mouth, the lower part of the cheek, and that's looking really, really lovely. Then we just need to bring some tone around the chin, just to where the highlight is, right on the centre. Again, just darkening the side down. Then on the side of the head, side of the forehead. You can see we just very carefully, very simply built up tones that have given us the form and shape that we actually want. Now I'm going to come in with the 4B pencil, because this will give me a better dark on the side of the neck, just coming down. Again, just using the tip, but very, very gently. And this then gives me the dark underneath the chin. And this side of a neck coming down. And right on the front. Again, just softening just some of the shadows, and the 4B just makes it that little bit nicer. Now I'm going to come in with the putty rubber and pull it right to a sharp point. And the side of the cheek, side of a neck, edge of the ear and the hair. Again, just pulling it to a tip again. Then right on the point of the chin. Two little bits on the top of the bit between the top of the lips and the bottom of the nose. Little highlights on the lower lip. On the upper lip, just dab it very carefully. Side of the nose. Lower eyelid to the tear duct. Upper eyelid in the centre. And above the upper eyebrow. Centre of the nose in the middle, right on the tip of the nose, side of the cheek, underneath the eye, and then above the right eye and above the right eyebrow. In between the two eyebrows, kind of like little bird wings, and I'm just dabbing ever so gently on the top of the forehead and right on the top of the hair. Sides of the mouth, and just carefully just keep looking. And you've got the same on the right side of the cheek, the ear, right side of the hair, and the highlight up the neck. Now just need to, using the 2B pencil, I'm just blocking in some bits of the hair. Now you just need to, again, follow the kind of direction, but just very carefully just draw lines, but just leave a highlight in the centre. Again, I'm just, you can see I'm just gently filling in these lines. Little darker shadow bit there underneath. But even on this braided hair, you just follow the shapes, the directions, so you're going underneath that way because the hair's pulled in, and over on the top, and you're just filling in to just match the tone. Again, we'll finish that off a little bit more, shadow underneath, darker at the bottom, and we'll finish the edges off when we do the full body. Just dabbing some highlights, but again, that's literally just dabbed. And so just coming back in with blending stump. And that's really nice. Just softening up the tone, and you can see it's just darkening again, just that little bit down this left hand side where the shadow is darker. And that's really good. I hope you're having fun doing this. This is really nice. Again, that's a very, very small portrait, but you're able to do something with such simple materials. Absolutely fantastic. So we're now going to come in with the 2B pencil. That was a 4B pencil, so we're now going to come in with the 2B pencil, and we need to shade in a lot of the figure. So you got to think, okay, where are the highlights? We've got highlights over the top, down the side of the arm, and then it's lighter in the central part. Then we've got highlights down the side. It's like down here as well. Again, I'm going to use the 2B pencil. I'm going to use the soft side of it, and we're just going to put in a mid-tone. Now, I'm literally filling in the shapes. You could do the whole lot, but I'm just going, see, like there straight away, I've just gone a little bit too quick, gone over this side, but that's okay. Just erase that off. And so I'm just carefully just filling in the shapes as we go along. So this is curved but slightly metallic, so you've got a darker bit on the outside coming down. Then we've got that dark patch underneath. Then we've got highlighted bits on the cuff. Then coming down to the hand, you've got the edge of the glove nicely highlighted, just kind of dark, right the way to the fingers. And then shadow right inside. And the top of that hand, you got that kind of little black, you got the highlight, a little bit of tone either side. And we can just build all of this up quickly. Again, we've got the highlight right on the edge of the black parts of the batten. So I'm doing these a bit darker. Then yeah, that needs to go higher up. And we got that highlight of the metallic bit. And this is the thing, you just keep looking. There's the finger. So you got the two, like the red and black bit and that bit on the metallic. Again, just two kind of lines going down there. And as we come down further, it's a thinner highlight. But you could say these are pretty much filled. Now again, you're doing a drawing, so you're creating an impression. And I really am not like we did with Voldemort. We did all the background black. I'm not going to do the background on this. So there's the dark onto that highlighted bit. We're going for an impression. So this is circular, so you've got the darker kind of edges to the side, so we've got that middle tone. You can see straight away it just builds up the actual tones. So you've got two kind of lines, like you've got the lines on the chrome parts up here, and then in the centre you've got a red. So I'm just wiggling lines and it just makes it work. And that's a simple way how you can build up the dark very, very quickly. But we'll come back now and we will just fill in the body with a good amount of mid-tone. Again, you've got this highlight underneath the left arm, down the left side, right the way down the edge. And this is going to be darker. But again, just by putting the mid-tone in, just filling in the shapes, in a very simple way, you already start to get more shape and form. Again, there's a highlight coming over the breast, over to the top of the chest here. It goes darker underneath. Then the actual shoulder piece, down the edge. Again, I'm just using the flat side of the pencil, just being quite impressionistic. And just filling in quickly the tone. So we've got highlight on the shoulder, coming up, then we've got the collar, we've got a nice mid-tone. Because the collar's more fluid and flexible, we've got that shade there. Again, nice highlight on the top, so I'm just indicating using the point of the pencil, the line in between. Then much lighter over the centre part of a chest. How that comes down. Again, the same on the right hand side of the zip. coming over to the right hand side of the chest. Then you've got this centerpiece, which has got a number of lines like highlight at the bottom and the top because of the edging strips. And that's actually quite dark in the centre. Now, the right hand collar, again fluid but darker than the left hand side, slightly lighter to the edge. So we can just darken that down. Just do the edging of those vertical stripes. Just fill that in. It goes up to that lighter part on the right shoulder. And then the same on this right side. Again, underneath the arm, again we can just indicate where the shadow is a little bit on the left arm. So now coming down on the right arm, we need to just fill in that tone. Darker part above the top of the strap that holds the shoulder pad in place. Then just nice mid-tone coming all the way down. Coming down to the cuff. And then just darkening the upper part of the right arm. And the shoulder pad. Got a strong highlight on the edge. Then on the right hand side of a torso, that's darker, and that comes across. We've got this highlight here on the right hand side of the right breast, this red highlight. And it's got, think of the curve underneath, you've got to bring that tone down. You've got this highlight on the side. And then I did that a little bit too dark. That should be. Oh. So that just threw me rubber off the table. There you go, just take that dark tone off a little bit. Now we fill in that part of the top above the belt, and again we've got just black tone, well, mid-tone on this leg, doing the pencil lines in the direction of that strap. That'll help. You've got a highlight at the top of this strap. Dark on the left hand side going to this side of a hip. And then we've got the belt. There's the dark. Again, I'm just being careful, but just filling the shapes in rather quickly. The holster, you've got the highlight down the centre. Some of the shape next to the thigh of the material, the leather that it's made out of. Then this left leg, you've got the highlight down the left thigh, but it is going to be darker because it's underneath the forward right leg. So this is going to have a much darker tone. Coming across a midriff. Filling in the crotch. Coming down to the upper thigh. Got dark on the strap from the holster as that comes around. Highlight in the centre. And then we've got the left leg filled in. Now again, we've got the knee pad. Again, it's just simple shapes, but all very dark. And I'm just being quite impressionistic, filling these shapes in. And you can get away with quite a lot. So there's the bottom of the left ankle. You've got the highlight on the right ankle. We've got two darker shades. You've got the highlight down the outside of the right ankle. And the tone coming up to the knee pad on the right knee. So again, just pick out the really dark lines and just indicate them with quick marks, and then just put in some midtones. So here we've got the front of the knee pad, side of the knee pad, you've got the highlight right on the top and underneath at the bottom. Same with the kind of strap that goes around the side. And then we've got the strap going up to the gun holster. Highlight on the top centre part of the thigh. Just a darker line. Again, the pencil's getting really small now. So just sharpen it. So this area needs to be much darker than on the left leg than the right leg, because the right leg's highlighted over the top. We've got the fabric join down the centre part of the right leg. Now, and this is all really what looks like very, very complex shapes and problems, because you break it down into small chunks. It makes it really, really simple. And it's just a question of applying time and patience. So I just hope you're having fun learning this. Again, you can see I'm just using the side of the pencil very quickly just to fill these shapes in, then just using the edge of the pencil, just giving a bit more delineation to shapes. Now, again, this leg is curved, so I'm just following the form of the leg down. And it's going to have darker tone as the leg curves around, and it's going to be lighter on the top, but we'll just build that up a little bit more in a bit. So now we've got the holster, so we've got that darker light there that produces two highlights. And then we've got the gun. Now the cuff on the right arm, and you've got the cuff underneath, bit of shadow coming down to the hand, the glove, again not as dark as the left hand, but we've still got a highlight right on the edge. Then you've got the shape of the inner part of the palm coming down onto the handle of the baton. Then you've got the reflected dark on the baton. And then this reflected highlight on the edge. And we've got the fingers, but we've got this baton coming down. So again, we've got a large highlight on the top two, black parts, kind of mid-tone, and then it just becomes a thin highlight as we go all the way down the baton to the bottom. Then again, we can just wiggle some lines for the chrome parts in between. And that gives us those reflected darks on it. And it's just a question of indicating shapes. You're just creating an illusion. So now there we want the handle. And then we just need to fill in some tone on the fingers with the soft side of the pencil. Again, you've got some highlights, so we can just leave bits of the fingers showing, and the shade on this belt part. That's the red part inside that tone, coming around on the edge. Then the hair, the two ends of the pigtails, ponytails, whipping out at the back. I've got the dark up there, up the right side of the breast next to that highlight. And that's a very quick filling in of this full figure, and now we can just build up on that. But again, that's just a quick good sketch, but we'll just add some more details and darks and just build it up so you can see what you can do. But the longer you spend, the more detail you can add. Anyway, hope you're having fun. That's the basics, and we're just going to build up on it next. Just sharpen the 2B pencil for the next bit, but we're going to come in with the blending stump. And the first thing I'm going to do is the fingers. Now, this is really simple, so you can just add using the blending stump. Just soften the tone a little bit. and that gives a little bit more form to the fingers. Now again, it's just really simple. This is so small. Again, just touching the highlights where the top of the fingers are. Top of the thumb. It just gives it that little three-dimensionality. Now I'm going to come in with my mono eraser, he says, if he could actually find it. It's disappeared. So I won't come in with a mono eraser. That has disappeared somewhere. I could really do with it because it's just a bit tougher. And I'm removing the lines right next to the cheek and the ear. Yeah, that's disappeared somewhere. How bizarre. Anyway, I'll try and find it and do that later. It must have fallen off my desk. But we're going to use now the blending stump, and I'm just going to push a lot of the pencil around. But I'm looking so you can see we've got the tone and form and shape of the arm. And so that's going to need to be darker, but I'm just following the shape and form. So we've got dark coming out under the armpit, up to the top. Again, this, all of this kind of armour. We're just trying to leave the highlight showing. But I'm using the blending stump just like a pencil, filling in the extra areas, just softening. So I'm lightly pushing it around now, coming down the mid part of the torso over the zip, and it gets darker when it comes down to the bottom part there, filling in that mid part as well. To the collar, then filling the tone in on the collar, just pushing that around. Now you can just use a pencil and completely fill this in, but I just find using a blending stump or a cotton bud, it's a drawing tool, and it just gives you more tools in your arsenal. Oh, I've missed a bit completely there of that strap completely. So how did I miss that? And by doing that, you're able to create more effects. And I really like what you can do with it. So you can see here it's pushing the tone around, but we've got the darker shadow on the inside of the right arm. And it just gives you better form quicker. Again, on the... And by doing the shapes all over the costume, we're able to push the pencil around so that we've got just good tone all over, and it stops the white of the paper shining through. So here we're pressing on darker up to the edge. That's going to need to be again, this is all just part and parcel of your drawing techniques. So again, we've got this light part here, so I'm just leaving the light showing, just pushing the tone around. Got a little bit of dark before the light on the side, just caused by the curve of the body, the torso as it comes around. Filling in that dark area, and again we'll put more dark on top of that. But sometimes you want a nice scratchy drawing, which is fine, but this is just showing you what you can do with techniques to create a kind of photo realistic image. Now again, you can build that up, it just takes hours. You just got to spend hours and hours and hours. So again, I'm using the side of this blending stump and I'm really just pushing this colour and tone now around a lot. Pressing on lightly where the highlight is on that strap. Darker going up the side of the leg there. Again, we might end up using, we'll definitely use the 4B, we might end up using an 8B for the very darks, but it will just give so much depth. But already you can see that's looking much more like a fluid human. Now, coming down at the top of that strap, again I'm just going right the way over because this is where the shape is and the form of the leg, but the strap has got the highlight in there. Then we come up to the top, there's a bit of a highlight there. Again, we'll just pull that off with the putty rubber, but just by smoothing this down we get a really nice effect on the costume. Now the costume's got lots of little bits in. Now you could use a technical pencil and really pull that up and put lots of detail in, but if you did a bigger drawing that would be much easier, whereas this one is a relatively small drawing, so we might have a go at just indicating some of that pattern in the actual fabric, but we'll just see what the effect is as we just build more and more up. So again, just a bit of shape and form on the glove, down the actual button, and already you can see that's now a much softer, more fluid drawing. That's looking pretty good. So now we're going to come in with the putty rubber and we're going to pull out some of the highlights. Really do, I have no idea what I did with my Tombow eraser. Oh well, I must have knocked it off the table somewhere. But we're now using the eraser. You could use paint if you want, or a paint pen. I've actually got one of these paint pens, Pentel correction pen, and another one, a proper paint pen. Yeah, Tipex correction pen, and then Posca, I think it is, white paint pen. Might have a go at that at some point in the future. So again, I'm just pulling out some of the highlights now that are on the lines on the armour of the... There's a helicopter going over, you must be able to hear that. That's helicopter, no, it's a lot, might be a helicopter, could be a large plane. I'm not looking out the window because I'm drawing. But on the costume, we're just pulling out and reinforcing the highlights on Black Widow's costume before we put some of the darks on. And that will help when we put the darks on, because the paper will be showing through. So on the gun, and the centre part of this band around the leg, going up to join the belt, centre part of the fabric join in the left leg, then the right knee pad, we've got the V underneath on the left hand side, the right hand side, the leg, going up the right leg to the holster and the gun, top of the leg there, and then the top. You can see already now we've got more three-dimensionality just by adding these little highlights and these tonal differences. So again, coming up the right arm, that's looking really good. Hope you're enjoying this. Like I say, we're just building up slowly, carefully. Now we're going to come in with the 4B pencil. We're going to start with the darkest part in the centre where the two legs are crossing over. I'm using the side of the pencil and really pressing on. This is, again, this is a 4B pencil. You could use 8B or 6B, but we're probably going to get away with the 4B. Again, I'm just quickly trying to fill in this shape and this tone. it'll help to bring more three-dimensionality to Black Widow. You can see already that leg is really starting to sit back. Now we've got two kind of dark lines there, so I'm not just doing it flat black all the way. And then the stripe down the centre of the thigh, that needs darkening down. And the knee pad. Got the dark right next to the right knee pad in front. Just indicating the darker lines. And again, bottom of the left leg. Nice and dark right at the bottom. And that already is really working for us. And this is where just using the dark and the shapes that you've already placed down, you'll build up the tone and it'll give so much more form and shape. So again, you just create an illusion, just a couple of dark lines there on the holster, by the side, diagonals going up, and fill it in but not as dark. The strap, got a dark patch there. Think of the curve of the leg, and then it gets lighter as it goes up, but it goes dark right into the top of the holster. But you've got some highlighted lights there, so just being careful, we can really pull those out. Leave the highlight right on the edge and the dark right underneath the belt. Little triangle of light there at the top, and that's that fabric join. But now we're going to bring the dark of the leg. Again, quite a dark tone, but then a darker line going down underneath. Going into the holster, we've got a dark band there. And then we've got the top of the leg. So you imagine where the two legs hinge, and you can imagine like a bikini line there. That's where you're going to have the dark, but you need to allow and dark underneath the belt, a little bit of lighter tone on the front part, but just build the dark up to the crease of the right leg. And the left leg, got the dark tone right underneath, but not as dark as that comes down and over. And just lightly go over that centre line. Point using the dark line on the strap around the thigh. Now I'm coming back in with the 2B pencil, just using the tip. That allows us to fill in the detailed lines a little bit more. So again, now just really accentuating the dark of the left leg where it goes behind the right leg. Now you can see that's really now got incredible depth. And we need to just do that and build that level of detail up all across the figure now. Again, if we do the same on the left arm quickly, coming right the way up, just as we've got the dark down there, we've got a very dark area right up to the armour at the top, this strap that goes across. And you can see how the curve of the arm provides this dark tone down the inside of the left arm. Then you've got these creases by her elbow and down her forearm, just providing a little bit more dark tone across the top of the cuff where you got that diagonal line. And the crease is going right to the edge. And then coming up the arm, we can build the tone up. Lighter tone at the top as the arm curves around to the outside. Again, just some creases in the fabric. And we're just building the depth of the tones up. Again, on the shoulder armour, nice dark lines, just creating the illusion of the shapes of that armour as it curves around the shoulder. Just some dark lines as that comes down, and you've got the shadow right underneath over the top. Bit of joining the fabric. Already you can see that that arm is getting stronger form and clarity. Now just building up some of the tonal detail. Darker black as we come down and right around the fingers. I'm going to just sharpen the pencil just so as we've got a nice point to work around the fingers. Because if you've got a blunt pencil, then that can cause you a lot of problems. Whereas if you use the point, it gives you a little bit more clarity. Just increase darks on the top of the chrome part, on the top of the button. Oh, just felt the tip snap off then. I was just pressing on. That's the thing, these are softer, so you do have to be careful. Dark coming down the glove to the thumb. Again, darker line there down the edge to the highlight, and that just gives it that three-dimensionality. So again, I'm coming in now with a 2B pencil because I can add some detail lines a bit easier. Because the tip's a little bit tougher. It's right to the edge. Again, I'm just doing some simple little cross hatching just to bring that tone and the kind of patterning on that top part of the cuff to light. Again, just pulling the highlight up, and then on the actual cuff, got some much darker shadows in between, but then we can just indicate some more of the lines. Again, side of the pencil, just filling in the tones up the arm and up to the shoulder, crisping the lines up. And that is looking really good. Sharpening that edge up. The dark underneath the shoulder armour at the top. Again, just come in. I'm just pushing that pencil around a little bit with the blending stump, and that's looking pretty good. So we're coming in back in with the 4B pencil and using the side. Now we want to build up the darks on the side of the body. So we've got this V shape down here on the pattern on the left hand side, and then we've got full shadow underneath, and then we want to follow the curve of a left breast and just bring that shadow around a little bit. And then you can see we've got the highlights just following the curve a little bit. Now we want just the top of that. I've got a bit of a highlight of that V shape, so I've just pulled that out with the putty rubber. Then again we can build this up. So coming in with the 2B pencil, just bringing the detail line on this shape over a little bit. Again, just pull out the highlight, and then we can just bring the dark down on the side. Again, I'm just using the 4B pencil, and then the same underneath. Now it's in between these two sections, it's much darker. So I'm doing a very dark line next to the pattern shapes of a costume. And this is where the abdominal muscles are. So you can see there's a darker shadow line in this shape that comes over. So very dark next to the edge of the actual pattern shapes. And then shape of this V, how this comes over and down to the belt. Again, just darker, slightly darker on the left hand side. And we fill that shape in. And then the same coming over on the right hand side, and it just gets a little bit lighter. Again, with the softness of the 4B, it's easy to fill in these shapes. Again, you've got the shape of the right breast, and then this V shape. So you've got the darker shadow here, and the same on this side. Just want to see the curve and the shape just building up a little bit more dark. So again, we'll just fill in between. Then that's that V shape. Now I'm going to pull out a lot of that tone. There you go, just a little simple lightening gives us a little bit more definition. Then we just need to accentuate the darks in these stripes. So again, building up that dark at the top, just softening it as we come out. And then fill in that mid-tone. Now, on the armour at the top, we've got that diagonal comes over, darker line. Then really fill in dark, and then we come over to the one underneath the collar. Just got a little bit too far. So found the Tomo eraser. Using the point, and then just blend that up as it curves up. Now, again on the collar, right next to the edge braiding, then little, oh, the tip just snapped off the little metal connecting bit. Dark on the inside next to the neck. And then up to the edge. Then underneath. Then the strap coming over. And then the dark on the right hand collar is thicker. A little bit of light next to the neck. Then we just blend that out. Excuse me, frog in the throat. Shadow underneath. Then the connecting clip. Then we've got the shadow next to this vertical strap. Dark on the edges, just them filling in between. Again, the last of the third coming down to the arm. Then we've got the dark underneath each of the three. Need to do the same on this side, just increase the shadow underneath, the light coming down from above. You can see we're looking really good. So now, curve coming down on the right breast, right down to this V shape. Again, we've got a strong highlight on the top. So just pull that off a little bit. And then underneath that, light banding on that stripe. And then coming down the front, underneath the V, and then again the same, darker down the side part. And then we've got the arm, right underneath the armpit, dark going up to the shoulder pads, the armour. Again, we've got a couple of little triangles of dark, and then we can just build the tone up a little bit. Dark underneath the shoulder pad, and then it curves into the dark of the armpit. That line curves around underneath. Then on the actual armour on the shoulder, we've got dark down, that nice little rectangular shape, and then we've got this curve one with the highlight right to the edge, and then that curves across underneath. Strap going underneath the arm, dark right underneath, and you can see we've got this dark shadow all down the side to this crease where her elbow is, and a slightly darker tone in the middle, not as dark as the edge, and then we can just fill in and blend in between, and you've got those two darker stripes coming down, lighter on just on the inside, little shadow there on the strap. And we can fill this down, and then we want the same, just slightly lighter coming down the forearm with a lighter bit round the inside. Again, the pencil's getting relatively blunt, so the tip's quite flat. And that allows us to produce those soft tones. Again, on the hip, not absolutely jet black but dark, coming up underneath the belt. This section on the belt is darker underneath that metal clip. A little bit lighter on that hip part. And then we got the strap from the belt down to the holster. Right to the edge. Now again, this has got a lot of reflected reds on it. But I'm just going to accentuate some little bits just because this is a pencil drawing. So you can see we've got the connectors from the holster to the actual leg part, and then the strap that comes around. And we got the shadow again. You got the fabric, you got a little shadow over the top where the belt is creased onto the leg, and that's just where you just get a little kind of dink because of the strap tugging into the leg itself. Again, I'm now using the very flat side of the pencil, just getting a flatter tone up the arm next to that line. And then we can do that coming down this leg. Now we need the dark a little bit on the inside next to the strap, and then a little bit of curve following that join in the fabric. But you can see it's still lighter and standing forwards compared to the left leg. Again, same if we do down the thigh. I'm now just increasing the shadow underneath, just so as we've got that shape a little bit more accentuated on the inside of the left thigh, a little bit narrower. So we're just using the flat of the 4B pencil, nice and soft. Coming down, we've got this highlight just above the knee. We've got the dark again, just where it creases over the knee pad. And so we can just fill in this dark. Again, we want a slightly darker tone down the centre of the leg, just giving us that curve going up of the fabric. And then the same coming out to the holster. Just filling in the right thigh. This edge of the banding coming down the centre of the leg. Now we're just filling that dark in quite nicely. Coming down next to that highlight. Again, the same thing, just filling in with a slightly darker tone, but not as dark as on the left leg that's in shadow. Now, come down underneath the knee pad. Again, just nice wiggly lines, showing the shadows and the shapes on the knee pad. We'll leave some highlights. Got two going over there. Then that curves around. Just leaving some highlighted shapes, but just putting some darks on, because you've got the kind of metallic reflections. So that's just making that knee pad look really nice. And then again, the forward ankle. Got the darks coming down the leg with the highlight in the middle and a highlight right on the edge. Softening the light all the way. Darkening the shadow above the kneecap, the knee pad. And that's looking pretty good. Now again, I'm just coming in with the blending stump just to soften that in for us. Again, we're just blending all this in up the arm, on the hand, back with the 4B. Now we're just doing nice dark inside the hand and the thumb grip. Some horizontal darks underneath. And then on the actual bracelet, so that's all looking pretty good. Just pulling some highlights out. On the leg, that line down the centre, the straps on the belt, again just dappling some highlights around the breasts, on the highlights on the top. That's looking good, and then we've got final details to do, but we are really getting there. Just sharpening the 2B pencil, bring the paper in. Now, what we're going to do is just pull up a lot of these detail lines. So I'm following the shape on the dress. Costume dress. It's an evening gown. This is absolutely fine. Usual evening wear. So I'm just crisping up a lot of these lines But then here you can see we've got quite a nice pattern. So I'm using the sharp tip of the pencil and I'm following the curve of the body, and that's how, just simply cross-hatching, you can indicate the shape and the pattern. So that's nice and simple, letting a little bit of the paper show through, crease the shadow underneath, a little bit of cross hatching down there. Again, we need to do some more down that part of the body, again right on the edge, just indicating a little bit into that highlight. Then on this shape, before we do the centre bit, I'll do the same on this side. So if you think the curve, think of the shape of the breast going round. Again, I'm not going into that highlight too much. And I'm following that shape and pattern. So again, down here we've got a fabric join with a little highlight. But then just some nice, quick, simple cross-hatching. Gets that pattern. Again, just nice, simple, easy shapes and patterns. Again, following that line down to the corner. Now, same on the collar, but we've got a crease line, goes up in that highlight. The collar that goes over. Now, we've got coming down the same thing, so I'm doing lighter here where the highlight comes over. We've got a little bit of a crease, but now I'm coming all the way down with just some little diagonal lines right the way to the bottom of this pattern. And then darker lines right at the bottom, again coming up to the abs, and we can just crisp up that line. Little bit tone going up. So now the same on this side. I just need to darken by the side of the zip. Just sharpen the pencil. Just so as I've got a nice sharp tip. And this is where a technical pencil would be very, very good. Nice and light there. Got this lightness coming all the way down, then it gets a little bit darker where the abs are. You can see we've got that darker line just delineating the shape. And that comes up to the abs. Again, I'm just doing the lines going up. Filling in that shape, and then we've got a dark delineation line on the edge of that stripe. Do the same inside. Shadow underneath that strap. And then filling in the shade going up to that highlighted part there. Again, just some delineation lines. Again, I'm just being very, very quick and impressionistic. Just sharpening up some lines. As we move around the drawing. So again, this is on the right arm, just pulling up some highlights on the creases. And going back in with a 2B just to delineate. Crisp up some lines. Got the crease line coming down, then little cross hatching lines on the cuff, and the same on the inside of the metal cuff part. Again on the glove, just indicating some parts of the stitching right the way down to where the fingers are wrapped around the top of it, of the button. Putting just some darker lines underneath. Again, same thing on the straps on the leg. Just some simple quick cross hatching. A couple of lines just to give that delineation. Now we come up to the belt. Darker lines there, much darker on the belt there. And we've got the very highlighted part on the belt, and then it comes around just like a slightly darker tone. The belt comes around the side. And then again the holster. Just building up a little bit more detail on the holster and the top of the gun. Now, just dabbing some highlights on the chest. And you can see that just gives us more, little bit three-dimensionality. Just pulling up a couple of little highlights. And this is just the fun you can have with drawing. When you think we've just used a 2B and a 4B pencil, this is really good and enjoyable. And I'm just pulling out some of the highlights. That are helping accentuate the costume. And this is just fiddling and faffing really, because you can just keep going for hours. But that is really, really good for what seems to be a very complex shape, complex figure drawing. You can see how by breaking it down into small shapes, it becomes very, very simple. So I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. Again, I'm just coming in with the 2B just to put some wiggly lines on, a bit more dark and definition. But realistically, this is pretty much a nicely done drawing. Oh, there we go, we've got the zip at the top. That's looking really, really good. Anyway, I think I'll leave that there because you can just carry on as much as you want, but I'm really pleased with that. I hope you've had fun. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video for the next lesson. Anyway, thanks very much. Take care. Ta-da.